Okay, division repetition. When we're doing division, we have the number here, 516 divided by 5, and we use the method of short division. It means we have 516 here and we divide it by 5. We think of the top number as being number of sweets, and we think of the bottom number as being the number of children that we'd like to have sharing our sweets. Okay? We have 5 sweets and 5 children. How many is everybody going to get? 5 divided by 5 is going to give us 1. Then we finish the 5 now. So if we want to remind ourselves that we've finished doing it and moving on to the next number, we can actually cross it out. We now have only 1 sweet and 5 people. How many sweets is everybody going to get? None. It's extremely important that you remember to put in that 0. They don't get any sweets, so we put in the 0 there. And that 1 sweet is left over. It moves over. Any leftover numbers move over to the next number. We now have 16 sweets and 5 children. We have the number 16 up here. 5s into 16 go 5, 10, 15, 3 times. 3 times 5 is 15, and we had 16. So how many sweets do we have left over? Well, we've eaten 15, we have 1 left over. What do we do then? We put in our decimal 0 here. So we put in our decimal point as well at the same place in the answer. We now have 10 sweets and 5 children to eat them. How many does everybody get? 2. So our answer to this question of 516 divided by 3 is 103.2. The most common mistake that I see you do in this type of division, and I would say it happens 1 in every 10 children does it, it's actually that you do this. You say, perfectly right with the first one, 516 divided by 5. 5 goes into 5 1 time, 5 goes into 1, it doesn't go at all, move it over there, 5 goes into 16 3 times, and 1 left over, and you do the rest of the division perfectly, and 2. So you get the answer that 516 equals 13.2. What have you forgotten to do? You've forgotten to put in that 0. And there's a big difference between that answer and this answer. Saying 500 divided by 5 is about 100, compared with saying it's about 13. So extremely important when you say no sweets, couldn't use them, that you put in that 0 or you get the totally wrong answer. Okay, let's take another division then, with decimals. That had no decimals at all. Let's take one with decimals. We have 516.21 divided by the number 0.7. When it comes to division, you're not allowed decimal numbers on the bottom. You have to get rid of them. The easiest way to get rid of them, in this case, is multiply the top number and the bottom number by 10. We're allowed to do that, because what's 10 divided by 10? 10 divided by 10 is 1. So we're actually we're multiplying the whole of this sort of by 1 in a way, because we're multiplying by 10 divided by 10, which is not changing it at all. So when we do that, we multiply the top one by 10, we get 5,162.1. We move the decimal point 1 place to the right when we multiply by 10. Divided by 0.7, move 1 place to the right, divided by 7. Now we've got our number set up correctly, we can do the division. Think of the top number as being sweets and the bottom number of being people again. So we've got 5 sweets and 7 people. How many sweets does everybody get? 0. So we move that 5 over to here. We now have 7 people and 51 sweets. 7 goes into 51. How many times? You need to know your times tables off by heart. Otherwise division is really difficult, okay? 7 sevens are 49. And you had 51. So 7 times 7 is 49, you had 51, so how many are left over? We've eaten 49, there's 2 left over. 7's into 6, and if you're not very good at your times tables, and you're doing division, use your fingers to help you. count in numbers of 7 until you get to 26, or just below it, okay? 7, 14, 21, 28's too many, 3 times. 7 3s are 21, so it goes 3 times. I've used 21, and I had 26, so how many's left over? 5. I've now got a new number, 52, but I know that 7 7s are 49. 7 7s are 49, and I had 52 here, and I've only used 49 of them, so 3 are left over. Decimal point in the same place before I start doing 31. 7s into 31, 7 4s are 28. Goes 4 times. I've not used 28, I had 31 from the beginning, so there's 3 left over. And then I put in a new decimal 0. 7s into 30, well 7 4s are 28. 2 left over. The thing about dividing by 7 is it's going to go on and on and on forever. So unless I say anything else, you can approximate these calculations to 2 decimal places. If we're going to be able to approximate to 2 decimal places, we actually have to calculate 3. So we're not done just yet. We've got to do one more. Okay, how many were left over from 7 4s are 28? And I had 2 left over. So now I've got 7s into 20. Go how many times?
2.
2. So the answer to these first initial 3 decimal places would be 737.442. I want you to chop after the second decimal, which means I want you to chop after here. In order to be able to know whether this number stays the same or goes up 1, because that's the only 2 options. Either the 4 stays as a 4 or it moves up to a 5. You've got to calculate the number afterwards. Because if that is a 5 or higher, this number goes up 1. If it's a 0, 1, 2, 3 or 4, this number stays the same. Giving us, because it's a 2, that number stays the same, 737.442 decimal places. And we write it like that. We're telling the reader that we've approximated this to 2 decimal places. Okay? And that's how we do division with and without decimals.